The Golden State Warriors find themselves surrounded by uncertainty, though it isn't even training camp yet. On one end, rookie forward Alex Tuhi is fighting to prove he belongs in the NBA, and a few signs suggest he may need more time overseas. On the other, Jonathan Kuminga's contract standoff has cast a shadow over free agency, which has left veterans hesitant to commit. All these revolve around Steph Curry, who is about to begin his 17th season at 37 years old, still the Warriors' best player, but right now under tremendous pressures.
For me, obviously every season ends in some way, shape, or form. We've had 4 years where it's ended great for us, and the times you leave it all out on the floor and give whatever you have to try to either make the playoffs, or keep your season alive, or whatever it is, and sit on the sidelines. It's weird. You wish you were out there to be able to do something about it.
So, will Golden State's youth step up, or will the franchise's reliance on Curry finally catch up to them? Alex Tuhi is entering the Warriors system under different expectations than most rookies. Drafted 52nd overall, he isn't being counted on to crack Steve Kerr's rotation right away. Tuhi comes from the Sydney Kings. It's the same NBL club that once helped launch Andrew Bogut back to the NBA. His time in Australia was all about a strong motor and defensive activity, but the offensive side of his game still needs polish.
I saw Gideon Dyson go through it, so it's cool to be in their shoes now, and you always watch these highlights and stuff growing up as a kid, so I'm just very lucky to be here.
Summer League is a very different experience basketball-wise compared to what you've been through in the NBL, compared to even the NBA, everything. How do you adjust to that? Is there any preparation you can do, or is it kind of like a baptism by fire of I've got to figure it out once I get here?
I think people talk about the level of physicality and the speed, but until you get in it, it's kind of you can't really replicate it. So that's probably one of the main things is you just got to get out there and play. But talking to people and the trainings and stuff definitely helps and gives you an idea of what it's like and what you can get away with here and what you can't. So it's just great to have a great organization behind me and have people that I can ask questions to and the guys that have done it before me.
I'm sure it's nice.
Tuhi's adjustment to NBA speed was pretty evident during Summer League. He often looked a step behind, particularly when asked to create against quicker wings. Conditioning became a discussion, and Tuhi himself admitted that his body has to be better prepared for the demands of this level. He told the media that his main goal before reporting to Golden State is making sure he's in top shape.
I'm sure it's nice to also be able to roll the ball out now and play, because it's been an unbelievable 2 weeks for you. Have you had time to even stop, take a breath, and just be like, wow, I've achieved that first step of me being here in the NBA?
Probably haven't sunk in fully yet. It still feels like the normal, which it shouldn't be feeling like. The fact that I'm on an NBA team now. So I think when I'll head home after this, and that's when it'll kind of sink in. I'm about to go over and start an NBA season. So hasn't sunk in yet, but it's kind of good you're not really playing with any stress or nerves, because it's just all right, I guess this is what I'm doing now. So I'm enjoying it for sure.
To be honest, the organization has options. They could sign him to a two-way deal, which will keep him close while allowing heavy minutes in Santa Cruz. Another possibility is leaving him in the NBL for an additional season, essentially treating him as a draft and stash. Neither outcome would be surprising, because late second-round selections rarely carry immediate responsibility on veteran-driven rosters like Golden State's. Jonathan Kuminga's contract dispute hasn't gone away, and inside Golden State, patience is starting to thin. The Warriors kept their leverage by extending a $7.9 million qualifying offer, but that only locked and restricted free agency. It didn't guarantee a future.
Another push to retain Jonathan Kuminga over the past several days, but the restricted free agent is continuing to decline their 2-year, $45 million contract offer, sources told ESPN on Wednesday. So Jonathan Kuminga said no.
Do you think he's slow playing this to kind of get back at the team?
Absolutely
not. Is this
not.
out of spite?
No, absolutely not. This is business. And even if he's
Negotiations came into play. The team put down a 2-year offer worth about $45 million. Indeed, that looked pretty generous on paper, especially for a player who's still proving himself. However, the fine print was where things soured. Year 2 wasn't in Kuminga's hands. Practically, it was a team option, and expectedly, that turned out to be a problem for a 22-year-old who just had his best season. Consequently, his side pushed back.
not
Kind of taking his
coming,
time. Yeah.
even if he's, no, this is business. This is nothing more than Kuminga trying to get as much money as possible, which he's earned the right to do. But the reason he's not taking the 2-year, $45 million offer is because the second year, and this is,
Well, give it to me.
the Warriors want it to be a team option for the second season. And what that would do is essentially mean that the Warriors would have Kuminga under control for another 2 more years.
Like they do now.
But they could also,
Now, the longer it drags, the more complicated the ripple effects will be. Veterans like Al Horford and Malcolm Brogdon have interest in Golden State, yet they're waiting. Why commit if one of the most athletic forwards in the league could still walk away next summer? Kuminga can play it safe with guaranteed money or gamble on himself with the qualifying offer. Will Golden State blink first, or will Kuminga call their bluff? Leave your guess in the comments. History suggests that free agency should be about opportunity. However, unfortunately, this season, it's been only about waiting for Golden State. Al Horford's name came up, so did Malcolm Brogdon, even Gary Payton, too, who already knows the system, hasn't rushed to re-sign, and we already know the reason. Until Jonathan Kuminga's contract is settled, nobody knows what the Warriors will look like when the season tips off.
Slater, the #1 most tapped in Warriors insider, if you don't know the name, and now you do. And shout out to him for getting that big job over at ESPN. He said, well, between the two sides, there's been renewed conversation between Golden State and Jonathan Kuminga. There is dialogue. But as you all know, talking doesn't necessarily equal movement. They've shared contract concepts and opinions about the whole thing between each other this last week, dating back to last weekend. Now, it is good news that at least we know the two sides are talking again. We were on a streak of about 2 to 3 to 4 weeks of the Golden State Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga and his representation not having any contact between the two sides. So at least renewed talks is good news for now, as we're a little bit over a month and a half away from the October 1st qualifying offer deadline that we know that Jonathan Kuminga is threatening to accept at this point so that he can have a no-trade clause and have full control over his future.
That uncertainty cuts both ways. Veterans want to know where they fit. Management wants to know what money and minutes are available. Meanwhile, the clock doesn't stop. Training camp creeps closer, and rivals are locking in their rosters. Every day, Kuminga holds out, and the Warriors lose ground in shaping theirs. Inside the league, executives are watching. They see a franchise trying to chase another title with Curry, yet stuck in neutral because one of its youngest talents hasn't signed. What else could be called a freeze on progress? How long can Golden State afford to stall before this window? Already narrow, slammed shut. Steve Kerr hasn't exactly hidden his stance on Jonathan Kuminga. Earlier this year, he said flatly that Kuminga isn't ready to take on a starring role for a team still built around Steph Curry. Granted, such public honesty is rare, however. It also laid bare the disconnect between the player's ambitions and the coach's expectations. The front office hasn't helped calm the waters. Their offer to Kuminga looked solid in raw dollars, but the team wanted control. In fact, for Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy Jr., this is not about Kuminga, but about setting a precedent. That said, the Warriors don't want to give a young player leverage that could box them in later.
Future's probably most uncertain with restricted free agency. What's your big picture view of his 4 years here and his potential future or non-future here?
I think he's grown a lot. He's been dealt a very tough hand, to be honest. Like, came in when we started 18 and whatever, 2 that year, and, you know, he had some moments, but getting in the playoffs didn't really have an opportunity, and we win a championship, and then you run it back, and, you know, he's handled his business in terms of just getting better and just trying to focus on what it means to, you know, become a better version of himself in the way that he plays, and the fact that he's had playing time in Hatton and been in rotation in Hatton, like that's tough for any player, let alone a young guy who's trying to figure it out in the league. So I commend him on just staying ready, seeing what he did the last couple of games. That's not easy to do, to not know if your button's gonna be called or your number's gonna be called, and then go out there and perform. So I'm proud of the way that he's handled it. I hope the future is bright for him, whether it's here, whether it's wherever, and knowing that he's a guy in this league that can continue to climb that ladder on his own pace. So I think he's gone through a lot that most people haven't in 4 years, and seen a lot. So hopefully he's better because of it.
If basketball were played on spreadsheets, that thinking would have made sense on paper. However, Kuminga is well aware about his skyrocketing value, and his teammates see it too. Every dunk and every strong defensive stretch puts the management under an immense pressure to recognize that he might be more than a role player. Hence, the stalemate deepens, and the question is, who breaks first? The Warriors don't have endless time to figure this out. Training camp is around the corner, and the standoff with Kuminga can only end in a few ways.
And taking the qualifying offer, which would be devastating for Golden State, but it seems to be what the Warriors are kind of daring him to do based on the latest report.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always been this staring contest this entire time where we're like, who's going to blink first? Are they going to give him the money he wants, or are they going to keep all these, team restrictions on there, team options, etc.? Are they going to do that or not? And the latest report is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at this. So this is from NBC in the Bay Area, mentioning that right now the qualifying offer, $7.9 million, remains the most attractive offer for Kuminga at the moment. So essentially, that's Jonathan Kuminga putting out there, going, "Hey, look, if you want, I've got until October 1st. I'll take the qualifying offer. I'll do it if you guys don't budge."
One option is compromise. That said, Golden State tweaks its offer, adds some security for Kuminga, and both sides move forward. That might help settle the roster quickly, but it could also set a precedent the front office has tried to avoid. Another path is risk. Kuminga could accept the qualifying offer, play one more season under $7.9 million, then hit unrestricted free agency in 2026. It's the ultimate bet on himself. If he thrives, he'll definitely cash in big, but if he stumbles, the gamble could cost him tens of millions.
Second year, while Kuminga and camp have made it clear they want a player option for year 2. So the reason why, just to explain for anybody who is new to this story, the reason why this is such a big deal is because the Warriors would like to flip Jonathan Kuminga in a trade. They would like to move him by the trade deadline. They don't want to lose him for nothing. That's what this is all about. This isn't necessarily about them not wanting to lose Jonathan Kuminga. It's them not wanting to lose an asset with no return in free agency, which is what they would probably do if he does pick up that qualifying offer. It's why this threat is so significant for Kuminga to pick up the qualifying offer, because he would.
There's also the trade route. Rumors of Jarrett Allen in Cleveland and other names have been floated. Moving Kuminga now would bring clarity, but it also means selling a 22-year-old with star potential before his ceiling is fully explored. That's a tough scenario indeed. Until one plays out, the Warriors' plans remain stuck. So what happens if this stalemate bleeds into the season itself? Now, moving on to the age factor, Stephen Curry is entering his 17th season, and the numbers never lie. He's 37 years old and still producing at an all-star level. However, at the same time, he's been carrying a workload that has somehow started affecting his performance and health. Last postseason, he missed time with a hamstring strain.
About it, the thoughts do creep in of what that timeline really looks like. I know it almost puts into perspective how important these next 2-3 years are in terms of doubling down on the level that I want to be at and continue to play at, and pushing it to the limit as long as I can. There's guys, like you said, Bron's doing it in his 20-something year. What Tom did before he retired was truly amazing. So you can learn lessons from guys like that it is possible. Obviously you have to be mindful of how you approach, your off seasons. And
now, the Warriors know what they have in Curry. He's a once-in-a-generation shooter who can alone change the floor geometry. At the same time, they also know that they don't have another player who can carry that same burden when he slows down. Jonathan Kuminga could be that bridge. So could a blockbuster trade. LeBron James has shown that stars can push past 40 and still dominate, but every player ages differently. If Curry is still the best Warrior at 40, it might speak for his discipline, but it could also be a warning sign about the team's failure to build the next foundation. So, you see, besides managing a contract dispute or a rookie stash, the Warrior camp is racing against time, and the clock is set to Curry's career. So if he fades sooner than expected, who takes the throne in San Francisco? Can you guess? It's not limited to contract talks when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga's future. His name has now surfaced in trade rumors, linking Golden State to Cleveland center Jarrett Allen. The catch is, the Warriors desperately need size and rim protection, and Allen provides both.
Giving up Moses Moody. I imagine if you're the Dubs, you can part ways with the shooter to bring in a big in Jarrett Allen, who's a lob threat, good defender. You need size on this team desperately. And judging by what a lot of people have said in the comment section and how they have responded to some of the shows that we've done on Jarrett Allen, I think Warriors fans would be all in. I think Moses Moody has potential in this league. As a starter, I'm not sure. As a rotation piece, he can shoot, he can defend, and he can light it up. When I've seen him play, when he gets comfortable, he looks good. But what is more of a need on this team? Shooting or size? I'd go with the latter and size. Should the Warriors trade for Jarrett Allen?
He is 27 now and coming off a season where he averaged more than 16 points and 10 rebounds. Allen is a strong screener and one of the league's most reliable rim defenders. Warriors roster has leaned on undersized lineups for years, and given the scenario, such a presence could make a good difference. The dilemma is what Golden State would give up to get him. Kuminga is only 22, and he's finally flashing the growth that made him a high draft pick. Yes, moving him now might stabilize the roster around Steph Curry, but at the same time, it could risk losing the upside, which keeps a franchise relevant beyond its aging stars. Overall, this isn't just a basketball question, but a window question. Does Golden State double down on winning immediately, or does it protect tomorrow at the cost of today? That tension between today and tomorrow is exactly why Josh Giddey's new deal matters in this conversation. The Bulls locked him into a 4-year, $100 million contract, fully guaranteed. He's the same age as Kuminga, and now he serves as a hard-to-ignore market comparison. No, Giddey hasn't been flawless. His shooting is still a work in progress, and Chicago is betting that his playmaking offsets the gaps. Yet the dollar figure is undeniable. It sets a bar that Kuminga's camp will point to during negotiations, because his growth last season wasn't far behind Giddey's. That creates a bind for the Warriors. Matching or exceeding that figure would signal belief in Kuminga as a cornerstone. Refusing to do so would risk alienating him further or pushing him toward the qualifying offer. The front office's preference for short-term control looks even more rigid when compared to Chicago's willingness to hand Giddey security in years. Will the Warriors swallow hard and pay Kuminga like Giddey? Or will they gamble that his market won't reach that number? If the Warriors gamble wrong, the fallout could show up. Early projections already have Golden State back in the play-in mix, not among the top seeds. ESPN analysts pegged them for a record around 48-34, eerily close to last season, which left them grinding through the play-in just to stay alive. Those numbers feel like a compliment and a warning for a roster built around Steph Curry. They're good enough to hang around, but not dominant enough to scare the league. The uncertainty with Kuminga only sharpens that edge. If he's traded, the roster tilts older. If he stays unhappy, chemistry questions don't go away. Either path makes it harder to picture Golden State as a top 3 team in the West. Fans have seen this story before. The margin between a mid-seed playoff spot and another play-in battle is way too thin, and every unaddressed issue this summer makes that margin even tighter. Undeniably, the Warriors have spent the offseason juggling a bunch of complex questions. Alex Tuhi may not be ready. Jonathan Kuminga's contract hangs in limbo. Free agency has stalled, and trade rumors rumors swirl around Jarrett Allen and Derek White. Even Stephen Curry, still brilliant at 37, carries the burden of time and injury risk. Now, it is about protecting a championship window that grows thinner by the season. Pay Kuminga like Josh Giddey or risk losing him. Trade for immediate help or hold on to youth and gamble on development. That's why these next few weeks are crucial. Training camp is almost here and someone has to make the first move. So let's put it to you. If you're running the Warriors, do you cash in young talent to give Curry another shot at a ring? Or do you take the harder road and trust the future?